And so we are in a state of emergency.
Okay, white supremacist violence is and always has been the number one threat to our society.
But I'm also very proud that my wife is white.
The Breakfast Club, bitches.
All right, Charlamagne, please tell me, why was I your donkey of the day?
Well, donkey of the day for Thursday, June 3rd goes to Fox News' Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson. I often wonder if God truly did create everything. I mean, I know God is God, and I always trust God to God, and I give all glory to God all the time. But maybe, just maybe, he regulated some of the creating duties to others. And when he did that, some things were made on his watch that he wasn't aware of. I mean, how else do you explain things like, rats, poisonous snakes, belly too, and Tucker Carlson? Look, I'm all about free speech. Even though I know speech isn't free, there's a cost to everything that comes out of your mouth, and Tucker Carlson is paying the price this morning because of the backlash he is receiving in regards to what he had to say about COVID safety measures. Basically, what some establishments and industries are doing in regards to people being vaccinated and non-vaccinated. No need for me to put any sauce on it. Let's just all sit back and enjoy the sounds of one of the best young comics in the game today, Tucker Carlson.
Pretty much everybody agreed that segregation was the worst thing this country ever did. Forcing certain categories of citizens into separate, lesser accommodations, barring them from public places, treating them like lepers or untouchables, that was completely immoral and wrong. We were told that a lot, and most of us strongly agreed. It was wrong. So imagine our confusion today looking out across the country. The very same people, literally the very same, who just the other day told us that segregation was immoral, are now enforcing segregation. Should we be surprised? Probably not, but we still are. Just this morning, the New York Times informed us that unless you can prove you have taken the injection that the Democratic Party demands you take, you are no longer permitted in bars, comedy clubs, even some dance competitions in the state of New York. You're too dirty to appear in public. You're not welcome near normal people. Want to watch the NBA playoffs in person? You had better be vaccinated to do that. Otherwise, the New York Knicks will bar you from Madison Square Garden. You can still go see a baseball game if you want to, but be warned, you will be sitting in your own roped-off section, marinating in your shame with the other disobedient bad people. Medical Jim Crow has come to America. If we still had water fountains, the unvaccinated would have separate ones.
Let's unpack this, as my therapist would say. By the way, stop calling for Tucker to be canceled because of his opinion. I watch Tucker. He amuses me. I don't want my entertainment taken away. But I shall aggressively disagree. Okay, where do we begin? Number one, when he says everybody. When he says everybody agrees that segregation is the worst thing that happened in this country, who is everybody? See, when older white men say everybody, they are not thinking about anyone other than themselves. Okay, this goes back to when they first sat down and wrote the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and whatever other documents they made when they founded this country. See, there was no diversity at any of those planning sessions. Okay, nope. That's why black people didn't have rights, women didn't have rights. When you hear old white men say everybody, they just talking amongst themselves, okay? We, the people, liberty and justice for all, lies, big old white male lies, okay? Who is everybody? I would love to argue with everybody being the white man, in regards to segregation being the worst thing that ever happened in this country. Okay, this is why you can't ban the 1619 Project from schools, because people like Tucker Carlson need that knowledge, because if you think segregation was the worst thing that ever happened in this country, then you have never heard of slavery. Not to mention, how about go talk to the three surviving members of the Greenwood community, Mother Fletcher and Uncle Red Van Ellis and Mother Randall is what they call her. They may have some thoughts on what the worst thing that ever happened in this country was, but let's talk segregation. I'm on record saying segregation was a great concept that was poorly executed because it should have been based on behavior, not race. I mean, let's not sit here and act like, we all don't self-segregate. There's certain people, places, and things you don't want to be around, okay, or don't want around you, and you have various amounts of reasons as to why. The problem with segregation was that it was strictly based on the color of one's skin and nothing else. That's wrong. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Not to mention, segregation wasn't a matter of choice, okay? At one point, it was the law. All right, the enforced separation of different racial groups in a country, community, or establishment. It's just all wrong. Now ask yourself, what does the history of racial segregation in America have to do with 2021 COVID safety measures? If you guessed not a devil damn thing for 500, Alex, you are correct, okay? I mean, holy false equivalency, white man. All right, see, this is what's so frustrating about the country we live in. Important things are talked about in stupid ways in the media. This is what keeps conversations from not moving forward. Okay? I've said this a million times, and I'll say it a million more. White men like Tucker Carlson are simply not used to being told what to do. They are not used to being held accountable. And accountability feels like oppression when you're not used to being held accountable. We have to stop letting people like Tucker Carlson co-opt language because they make words meaningless, so we can't use them against them. How can you have a serious conversation about racial segregation in this country when Tucker Carlson is saying segregation is simply based on whether someone chooses to be vaccinated or not vaccinated? I never had a choice to be black. How do you have more empathy for people who choose not to get the vaccine than you do for people who got discriminated against because they didn't have a choice on what race God chose them to be? Not to mention, in regards to segregation, in certain places, you wouldn't want black people regardless of what shot they had or not. So knock it off, okay? See, this is what happens when, we end up having two completely separate conversations over the same phrase. It's not an accident. Tucker Carlson isn't a dummy. He just plays one on TV. And Law 21 of the 48 Laws of Power is play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. This is what guys like Tucker Carlson do, baby. It's not an accident. It's part of a propaganda and misinformation campaign waged by the right. And it works. As long as they keep folks stuck on stupid, distracted, and debating about nonsense like COVID safety measures being the medical Jim Crow, okay? This has nothing to do with anything. Except white men like Tucker Carlson not wanting to be held accountable, not wanting to be told what to do. And like I said, accountability feels like oppression when you're not used to being held accountable. It's also amazing to me how the descendants of colonizers are now trying to co-opt oppression. Tucker, you will never know what racial segregation feels like. I mean, I've never felt it like our folks during the Civil Rights era did, but I guarantee if you talk to folks who lived through that, they would laugh at you calling COVID safety measures medical Jim Crow. We need more than the 1619 Project in schools because some people like Tucker Carlson are really trying to revise history. The difference between COVID safety measures and racial segregation to me is simply choice. You can choose to get the vaccine. You can choose not to. You can't choose your race. I don't care what Rachel Dolezal says. You can't choose your race. Okay, Tucker, you know that, though. But since we just throwing things out there to get a conversation going, Tucker, if there was a vaccine that caused us to actually speak truth to power, if there was a vaccine that actually caused everyone in the world to treat each other as equals and eliminate division amongst people, would you take it, Tucker? Probably not, because it would cure all the things you profit off of. Please let Kathy Griffin give Tucker Carlson the biggest hee-haw.
Please give this giant jar of mayo the biggest hee-haw.
All right. Well, thank you for that donkey of the day.
Yes, ma'am.
Too much goddamn mayonnaise.
When we come back...
Donkey of the Day is brought to you by the law office of Michael S. Lamonsoff. Don't be a donkey. Dial pound 250 on your cell and say the bull if you've been hurt in a construction accident. That's pound 250 from your cell and say the bull.